My name is 𝐊𝐿𝐵𝐻𝐼nE Mandeng. I run a small consultancy boutique in London, and we have specialized on digital monies. And we do a lot of our work with Accenture, accompanying many of the important so-called central bank digital currency projects around the world. I joined from university. I'm still a visiting fellow at the London School of Economics, and I have worked more than 20 years, both in finance and at the International Monetary Fund. My impression from the Futurist Summit 2024, I have to say I assisted in some of the lectures yesterday, and the idea to listen to completely new topics for me was very most interesting, I have to say. I remember the physicists who talked about the discovery of new planets, and then also the discussion about AI. I thought it's very good to bring together different streams, different types of researchers to create a common forum where new ideas can be discussed. So I think it's an excellent idea to do it. When I talk about digital monies, what I mean is money that is issued on blockchain in a new format called digital tokens. And the idea is really, it's not about how a payment is made, but it's mostly about how payments are being processed. So what happens after you make the payment? That is really where blockchain comes in. And the analogy, I think, a good analogy is the cash infrastructure. So when we pay with a banknote, all processing, all validations are done by a completely decentralized infrastructure. And what we're trying to do with blockchain is exactly the same, so that the settlement of a payment can be done by a completely decentralized infrastructure, can adapt to the needs of the payer and the payee, and thereby create a new way of processing payments, giving rise possibly to new business models, new actors, more competition, and therefore more efficiency in how payments are being made. That, I think, is the essence of digital tokens. Banks already process an enormous amount of data. Actually, what is surprising is how little they seem to be using it for their business. But the fact is, every payment we make, banks will know about it. So it should be a tremendous sort of source of information about our behavior, what we do, etc. So the data is huge that is being processed. And AI, artificial intelligence, probably can be a very useful tool to extract certain patterns that may improve having a better understanding of how we make payments, where we are making them, why, etc. And therefore may help banks to become better at providing services that will be of interest to their clients. So I see potentially a big role for AI to basically allow for the adoption of more sophisticated statistical analyses of the data that they have available for them. So in my world, I will be biased. I think it's blockchain-based applications. So banks today increasingly start to explore how can they use blockchain for banking services. And the obvious one is to make available deposits, not only in the usual format, which is a book entry format, but also in a digital format, so that the deposit can serve both as a store of value, as a deposit, but also as a payment instrument. So you could think of it as a check. And I think this could allow banks to compete quite effectively against fintechs and other new developments in payment, and ensure that they can maintain their role in the payment industry of today. So I think there is some urgency for banks to move in that direction. I think there is a huge potential to make payments more efficiently, and undoubtedly, banks have an interest to be at least accompanying these developments, if not also leading these developments. What is the new format of money that comes with tokens? Right? Yeah. So look, again, I think the analogy with cash is quite good. So cash is a physical token. Okay? So it's a banknote. A digital token has properties very similar to cash, but in the digital space. So we can use a digital token to do transactions we can do with a physical token, but we can do it in a digital environment. You see? And the advantage is that cash has a lot of very, very useful properties. So to discharge a debt, if I tender a banknote, the payment is instant and the settlement is also instantaneously. Rather than with a bank payment, where normally it's at least 4 types of transactions that take place. So the execution of the payment or the discharge of the debt, the clearing, the netting, and then the settlement at the end of the process. While with a digital token, the transaction would be the payment is the settlement of the transaction. So that brings enormous advantages. And so that is why there is an interest to pursuing using this new format of money as a complement to the existing formats, because it can do things, certain things, not all things, but certain things better than existing what we call mediums. You could argue technology is only technology, right? We don't necessarily need to know the technology for things that we are using. But I think when it comes to blockchain, there is something you need to know. You need to know how the blockchain more or less works in order to have the intuition that is needed to think about how it could be applied, in particular in banking and in payment. So I think for banking students of today, I think it would be important for them to learn more about blockchain, how the crypto world operates, what CBDC could mean, what in particular the digital euro could mean. Because that understanding, I think, will be critical in order to allow then future banking services to be able to leverage on the capabilities provided by that new technology.